Oh shit, we're back. Got that old Tron Air hoodie on again. So it's been a week or so since you guys have seen anything. Been a kind of a crazy couple weeks. So we did get some progress made on the car about a week ago. Never did make a video on it and what's been going on. So we're T-minus 2 weeks here till race season. Trying to get tires together, fuel together. I gotta get the pulling truck ready to go. All that kind of shit that you deal with before the season. So just a lot of things coming together at once. And then one thing that threw a little bit of a wrench into it, but not a bad wrench. It looks like the big motor parts will be coming together. So we got the block back from the motor builder, and all the parts, we got lucky and some shit fell into place, and we were able to source all the parts that we needed for that. So we got a big box of parts back there and just waiting on a few little odds and ends to come back, and Dad will start putting that thing together. So looking forward to that. What we got this weekend, the goal for this weekend is to, the body's pretty much finished, buttoned up. We got a few things left to do yet on the hood, but everything up there is pretty well buttoned up. And then we just got a few straps to make on the right side here, and we'll be ready to jerk the rear end out and kind of finish up the mechanical stuff that we got to finish up. So that's the goal for this weekend, is to truly completely finish buttoning the body up so it'll be ready to wrap, get the rear end jerked out, change out an axle tube, go through the bird cages and the hubs and all that stuff, and we'll show you some of that as we go. That's where we're at this weekend.
Anything to add, tire guy Nate?
No, not. I don't know. You caught me off guard.
He's not ready to do any work. Tires haven't showed up yet. He's just here for moral support and to try to learn something new. So, all right. Well, as he said, we got a bunch of motor parts back. Take you back here. We got boxes stacked up and blocks sitting back here, all ready to go. So we got the block. She's all prepped and ready. Box of parts, timing stuff, gaskets and whatnot. New dampener, new rods. Cranks up in the motor, guys, getting balanced right now. And as soon as that get back, hopefully the next video you guys will start seeing, we'll get some video of Dad putting that motor together. We kind of put all our own motors together. We have our motor builder go through and do our machine work and stuff like that, and then Dad does all our assembly. It's kind of how it's always been for years. That's saves, trying to save a buck, about $2 to get a motor guy roughly to put a motor together. And anytime you can save money in this sport, you try to. So, but all right, yeah, we'll get rolling on this car and let you guys see how that all goes.
All right, so been a pretty decent day today. A lot of kind of little finishing touches stuff, right? So it's kind of all tore back apart now, but the hood's done. We got all the hood pins all strapped down where they need to go. We got the scoop on the hood. We got the door bars all set in position, bolted down. All the right side strapping finished up. Had to make a few new straps for the rear quarter panel. So that kind of got us to a point now where we're ready to get to this mechanical stuff that we've been talking about. So we went ahead and tore the right side of the car off and the upper fender and all that stuff. You don't need it, it's in your way. Got all that off. Jerked the drive shaft out. You're gonna need to put some new U-joints in this thing. It's got about a season on it, and you can feel some grumbling in this U-joint here, which is common. Now these drive shafts are carbon fiber, which still to this day, I mean, this has been out now for quite a while, but to this day it fascinates me, right? All that horsepower, and you think about all the forces on that thing, and it weighs maybe 3 pounds total. The whole thing weighs 3 pounds, so kind of cool. But anyhow, so that brings us to the point we're at now. So just 2 seconds ago, the car was where I was standing. That's the one nice thing about the roll around car dollies. We were able to just unhook the 4 bars, unhook the brake calipers, the lift bar and the J bar. All that stuff still hanging in here. Kind of got it all hanging there. And then we just rolled the car. right over top of the rear end. Just rolled it off to the side there. So we got the rear end out of this thing. We'll go ahead and get the fluid drained out of it. Get, you know, both hubs pulled off. Get the bird cages pulled off both sides. This axle tube is the one that's going to get taken out and getting replaced. Like I said the last night there, we took a pretty hard shot to the right side of the car, and I'm concerned that this thing's bent. So we'll just go ahead and change it out. It's cheap enough to do that, and you could really chase a demon if that's bent, right? And you can just start chasing handling problems and things like that. So we'll get this thing all stripped down, tore apart. All right, kind of wanted to stop there in the time lapse. This is a good opportunity to explain something. So we just pulled the axle out. All right, and this is what these axles look like if you don't know. So you got big splines on the outside. It goes down to the smaller splines on the inside. Now, this bolt in the end, that stays in there, that keeps your axles spaced apart the proper amount, so that they're all the way out against each side of the hub. So your smaller splines are on the inside there. Actually, you go into your the center section, and that's where the gear spins, and then it comes out. And this is a solid lock rear end, in case anybody doesn't know that, right? But what we wanted to kind of highlight here, and this is a good reason that you do this maintenance on a regular basis. So you got a drive flange that sits out here, okay, and that the bigger splines on the axle that you just seen, they go down inside of here, all right? And that's so, you know, obviously as the rear end spins, that's what allows the hub to spin, therefore spinning the tire, all right? What we noticed when we pulled this thing apart is that there was a lot of, these things are sealed on the inside. So inside the, basically the inside end of this axle tube has a seal in it that seals around the carrier section of the rear end and prevents any oil from coming out this way, right? And that's why you got grease in your bearings. When we pulled this axle out, we noticed that there's a good amount of oil all over the axle itself, which is not good. There should never be any oil in that tube at all. And then you pull this out and you can see right here, that little drip right there on the floor. If you look in here, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's a bunch of oil inside there. And you see all that nasty shit there? That's the grease. So what ends up happening is them seals go bad for whatever reason, or maybe the center section goes bad, it gets worn, and it allows oil past and gets down in the tube and gets inside the hub here, and then that oil actually washes the grease out of the bearings. Now, right now, I'm not super concerned about this, right? We're changing this tube, we're changing this hub, we're changing these bearings. We already knew that, and this ain't terrible. I mean, I've seen it to where the hub is actually full of oil. That's bad too, right? But you run on this for too long, and you'll wipe out a set of bearings, potentially tie up a hub gets hot, and the axle tube gets hot, could break a snout off. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go very bad by not catching this in time. You know, luckily we had no issues with it. We caught it. It's not a big deal. We're changing all this stuff anyway, but just another real key reason to make sure that you're doing your yearly maintenance, because, you know, we probably only ran, what, Brand, maybe 18, 20 races last year total. This shit was all apart, you know, before we started the season. And so, you know, not really a whole lot of races, but, you know, anybody could easily say, it's not a big deal. I just did those hubs not long ago, and, you know, put a body on it, new vinyl and everything like that, and go back out this year, and you could get 3 or 4 races in and really have a big problem. So kind of a good thing to highlight here. Just another one of the reasons that we do this maintenance every year. You know, if we're racing 2 nights a week all year long, it's not uncommon for us to, you know, tear one of these hubs off and just make sure that everything is okay, you know, halfway through the year, because that could be 20 races in itself right there. So just want to stop the video and kind of let you see, you know, how quickly you could find a problem when you start tearing into this stuff, right? So day back out here on the old rear end situation. So show you what we got going on. These things are pretty neat little rear ends. It's amazing they take as much abuse as they do, but this is kind of how we do it. So you could put a hub down on that end there and set it in a rim. I've seen that done a lot, but we got the blessing of having a lift, so we kind of made up a little plate here that we put that axle tube down in, and obviously the rear end's all built up on top of that, so we take it apart. But here's your center section, and so that basically sits on top of that, and then you got one other bell with one other axle tube that sits up there. But another reason you kind of take this stuff apart is we're taking this thing apart and we got everything out of it. And notice that if you spin this, you're not going to feel it on the video obviously, but it's quite grumbly. So that means the bearing in here is junk. There's a bearing that rides in here and a bearing that rides back here. So that one's definitely junk. So we'll pull all this apart. I'll show you that bearing once we get it out and replace that. But otherwise, there's your ring gear. Everything looks good on that. Everything looks good on your pinion gear in there. All the bearings look good. So I think it's just a matter of getting this axle tube out, which is what we're working on now. We'll get that out and get the rest of it tore apart and get a bearing on order and put that back in. So all right, well, upon further inspection, we found a few more things going awry. So we talked about that front bearing being bad yesterday, and turns out after I got that out, the rear bearing was shot too. So we basically got this thing completely tore down, other than ring and pinion look okay. Pinion feels pretty good as far as bearings go. So I think we lucked out there, but we got this thing completely tore down as far as it needs to go. Just pieces everywhere, right? So we did get the axle tube out of the bell, which was kind of a pain in the ass, quite frankly. This rear end has never had any tubes taken out or put in other than from the factory, so your press tends to be pretty damn tight on something like that. So with a little bit of persuasion from the old Harbor Freight arbor press and a hammer and a torch, we were able to get that one out. Got the new one in. So got the new one in there. So currently what I'm doing is each on these axle tubes, it's a press fit in here, or shrink fit, however you want to look at it. You basically heat this part up, get it hot, get it to expand, and then drop your axle tube down in. It seats up against, and then you go through and you drill and tap 6 of these holes. So that's the time consuming and shitty part, but Brian and Dad made a cool little tool, because you still got some threads left in the bell itself. So you thread this in that little hole there, get you a pilot hole, a center hole, and then you go back and drill it with a bit for a 3/8 24 tap. So I got one of them done, and the other one's finished drilling out here, and then we'll run the tap in there, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have all our parts in, the rest of our bearings, and we'll be able to throw this thing back together. So we'll speed you up a little bit here and show you some of this, and then we'll show you some putting it back together tomorrow and be in a pretty good spot.